So welcome to the virtual stage. We have the beautiful Stephanie Mojica. And I've brought Stephanie on, or Steph, on here to talk about, I guess I titled this as Words That Sell. So Stephanie helps business owners who are struggling with writing words to sell, to write their blogs, newsletters, websites, social media content, video scripts, and other sales materials. So like anything that you can think of to be written, Steph can do it. They can quickly get the attention of their ideal clients and make more money online. So I know personally, I've wasted so much time consuming content and trying to figure out algorithms and what works. But what Steph does is she fast tracks that for you and has a tried and true method that she uses to get you from point A to point B with her own success stories, and has a bunch of clients underneath her. So I'm excited to hear how you got into all of this work, Steph, and whether you've always been super passionate about writing and whether that's come naturally to you. So come in telling your story from wherever the beginning is for you.
So I guess the beginning for me is about childhood. I guess I'm around 8 years old, and I just really enjoyed writing. So my grandmother, who unfortunately passed in 2009, was very much into writing. And when I was a little girl, I started reading when I was about 3 years old.
Wow.
So I was just always in the books and reading. And then as I learned how to write in school, I was into writing. And so I was in the fourth grade, and they were drawing pictures for Thanksgiving. That's for those who aren't in the United States, that's like an important American holiday. And although I have different opinions about whether it should be celebrated, but that's a different story.
That's
Because
another episode.
Thanksgiving and Columbus Day have become very controversial. But that aside, so we were supposed to draw pictures. Usually, when you're children in America, the United States, you draw little pictures of turkeys and pumpkins and pilgrims and indigenous people, which they called Indians back then, because I was born in 79. So this is in the 1980s, long before people started getting aware of this stuff. And I wasn't ever very good at drawing, so I asked my teacher, could I please write a story instead? And my teacher was a really nice person that had encouraged my writing, and she said, sure, go ahead. So I wrote a little Thanksgiving story. I don't remember the contents of it, but the teacher liked it so much, she took me by the hand and took me to all the other classrooms in the school. It was like pre-kindergarten, like 3-year-olds till sixth grade, 12-year-olds. So we had to go to, it was a small private school, but we still had to go to a lot of classrooms. So she took me around and I read it to everybody. And so I just kept writing from there. Had various teachers who encouraged me, a couple who discouraged me, which that was very frustrating, but I didn't really listen to them. It kind of made me angry. I had one teacher tell me in high school that I would never be a newspaper reporter, that my writing was just not good enough. And I don't know to this day why she said it, but what was funny, so I graduated high school, 17. Most of us in the United States graduate 17, 18. And I went into college. And right away, I started writing for the college newspaper, got an internship at our city's daily newspaper, which was kind of a big deal. And I remember a guidance counselor from high school was so pleased about it. He like insisted on getting a bunch of my newspaper articles and putting it in like one of those cases, those like award cases that they like to hang outside in schools. And he put it outside the journalism classroom. So the teacher who
Wow.
had said all these horrible things had to walk by it every day for like, I think it was up for years. They kept, because this was a big deal to them. I mean, I didn't come from a tiny town. I came from a pretty big city. About the city itself had 150,000 people, and the whole area had 2 million. So for somebody who was recently out of high school to be writing articles for the local newspaper was a really big deal. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny. I'm not the type of person that likes to take revenge. My aunt always said the best revenge is to be a success, but I just thought it was funny that he put it, and he didn't know anything about how this teacher had treated me, but he just thought it was natural to put it right outside the journalism classroom since I had been working in that classroom for a couple of years. on the newspaper and to show other students walk in there what might happen. And she had to see it until she retired. She never contacted me. I never contacted her. But I just have to, because she was really hateful. She wouldn't let me be an editor of the newspaper or anything. She just kind of wanted me to sit in the back. And looking back, there might have been some racial issues where I
Mm,
grew up. There were some racial issues. My mother's white. I'm Native American. My dad is Native American and Mexican.
yeah.
And by my last name and my skin tone, and growing up in the southern United States, I did experience some discrimination. It wasn't as blatant as it became, in recent years.
Yeah.
But I think that had some things to do with it because looking back, I noticed that she treated some of the black students pretty poorly as well. And that the people that she was really promoting and trying to get ahead were white, blonde haired, blue eyed students like her.
Yeah.
So I think that had more to do with it than anything I actually wrote.
Steph, I'm curious to see how that has shaped the writing that you do today in terms of, are you quite subtle in your meaning? Because I guess when you're writing, there's very little chance for there to be silence or representing a pause. But you know how you speak of it kind of came back, and it's not, I don't know if I'd necessarily use the word revenge, but being successful in your words, are you kind of quite subtle in the way that you write, or is it very direct and blunt?
It depends on what I'm writing. So I was a newspaper reporter for 17 years.
Mhm.
And I also did side hustles on other kinds of writing, editing, and coaching, but we can talk about that later. As a newspaper reporter, ideally, and journalism, like the rest of the world, has changed. But the way I was trained and the way I always did it was you need to try to tell both sides of a story. Like if somebody committed a horrible crime, you need to try to get the other person's side of the story. You may not be able to get it, but you need to try to get it. So I always try to be very fair, report the facts from both sides. If the other side didn't want to talk, I would explain my attempts to get a hold of the other side and say they didn't get back in touch, they had no comment, etc. And let the reader decide for themselves. I didn't do opinion writing very much or things like that. So I really tried to be just state the facts in an interesting way and be as fair as possible to everyone I encountered because I was aware, and this is still the truth, that what I wrote a lot about crime and politics and
Mm,
sometimes business. So what you write about a crime can really mess up somebody's life. Like, what if they did not commit that crime? Just because a man or a woman is arrested doesn't mean they did it. So I always just tried to represent everything in the most fair way possible. So I don't think I was blunt, but it was like direct and factual. When it
yeah.
comes to copywriting, like we mentioned, words that sell, sometimes you have to be blunt. It depends on the audience, it depends on the person who's selling the product.
Yeah.
Some people don't have a blunt personality. They just want to be sweet and educate and try in a friendly way to get someone to take an action. Some people want to hammer that pain. I'm sure you've heard about this, the pain to solve the problem. Some
Mm,
people want to hammer that home. I'm capable of embracing anybody's voice and almost any mission. I mean, there's some. I mean, like when I write, I mainly write either for publication, like real estate magazines. I still do some freelance for that, or you know, wait a second. Let me pause a second. You're gonna edit this, right? I think I forgot what I was saying.
it's okay.
Uh, take a sip of coffee. That's funny.
Yeah. Just let yourself come to it.
So I think when you're writing for publication, it's different from copywriting, writing to sell. And when you're copywriting, it's not really about you. Yes, your skills have to come into play, your experience has to come into play, your ability to ask questions of the person who you're doing writing for comes into play. That's why people usually like to work with me because of my journalism background. I'm very good at interviewing people
Yeah.
and usually being interviewed. So it just really depends on what you're doing. But I think being honest is always important, no matter what you're doing. I have turned down clients because they wanted me to say something I knew wasn't true. They
Mm,
wanted me to like invent a fake testimonial, from somebody who didn't exist. I had people come to me wanting me to write fake case studies. Those, for those who are listening or watching and don't know, those are usually 1, 2, 3, maybe a little longer page reports about a business, usually that had success with a product or service.
yeah.
And that's something you really need to have a real person and interview them for. But there were people that wanted me to invent those. And also, people come to me sometimes wanting me to write their college papers. And I just don't. Yeah, literally. I mean, I have different kinds of marketing, but over time, because I've been doing this for 24 years after high
Wow.
school, I get people coming for almost everything. And some things I won't do. I'm not gonna write somebody's homework, college paper, or make something up.
Is that a boundary that you've had from the very beginning, or is that something that you've established either from of kind of going too far in that area and going, this does not feel authentic, or this does not feel true to me? Have you worked your way backwards from there, from when you initially started writing?
Well, I'll be honest with you. So I started writing for pay in high school. I mean, I wasn't doing it full time, obviously, but there were small local newspapers, very small ones, that were paying me to write an article or to do something like that. I was a volunteer assistant editor and writer for the local Habitat for Humanity newsletter. And obviously, I worked for my high school paper. I was really good at writing papers in school, and I did have a couple of friends that begged me to write their papers. So I'm not proud of it, but I did it. Sometimes it was for money, sometimes it's to
Yep.
help. I wouldn't do that in college because I was too afraid of getting kicked out. I figured that once you're an adult, the stakes are higher, and it never really felt great. And I didn't do it a lot. I just did it a couple times.
Yep.
Like I had a dear friend in a jam. Another friend was afraid he was going to fail English and have to go to summer school, etc. So in college, obviously people pushed me to do that, but I didn't want to. Plus, I was working at newspapers at that point. I was too afraid of losing my job. When I did the freelance thing, because like I said, I always did freelancing, even when I was working full time at a newspaper. But I guess it was about 7 years ago, I left my last newspaper job and was doing a full time freelance thing. And I did go online because there are services where they will sell college papers.
Mm.
I did one project and I hated it. I also didn't feel it was very honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't really serving the person because they're not really learning. So I tried it. Now I haven't done it recently just because I've been so busy with other work. I will edit and proofread people's
Yeah.
papers for school. I used
Yep.
to make quite a bit of money doing that, especially people's dissertations, thesis papers. So I don't have a problem doing that, or if somebody has a problem with their references. I don't have problem. I wouldn't have an ethical problem doing that if somebody offered me enough money at this point because my business has shifted. I'm very busy, but I would never, not for any amount of money, write somebody's homework or paper. It's just, I'm not, I understand that people get really busy, but for the most part, I just don't think it's an honest thing to do. At the end of the day, the student is really going to be disserved.
Obviously, one of your, well, not obviously, but what I'm taking away from what you're saying is that one of your top values is honesty, and really being
Yes.
able to, listen and serve the person, to give them like the best content you can. So I know that one of your biggest traits would be your ability to objectify and see that what their story is for what it truly is, because some people can get so lost in their story that they forget really even why they're telling it, or what the essence is in that. So having that as a writer is such an important skill. But I'd love to know whether you're just more fascinated in writing for other people's stuff, or like who's the Steph behind all of this writing? Like if you didn't have to write for anybody, do you write your own little books or blogs about yourself or the topics that you're interested in?
So that's a great question. I used to do a lot more writing for myself, and actually lately I've been leaning more toward the coaching and editing, which we can talk about.
Yep.
But I used to write a lot of poetry, some nonfiction screenplays, have published a couple of well, actually a number of short ebooks, and then a couple of longer ones. But I haven't really been doing much writing for myself lately. There's this writing is so labor intensive, so it's just really hard after spending a day either writing, editing, or coaching people about writing to want to sit down and do more writing.
Well, you have to, it's like, because I love writing songs, but if I don't give myself time of day for that, and if they're literally, I've come from another job, there you have to have time enough to allow yourself to go in the writing space for whatever it is that you've got the idea for. So it's a bit like when I hear people say, oh, I had a week of holidays, you ask them how it was, and it's like, oh, I should have had two, because they relax by the time that they're a week in. And it's a bit like, I guess, when you come to writing a piece that you're passionate about, you can't just kind of switch into it and be like, oh, well, here I am. It's like you have to feel relaxed, and that you can let your other articles or whatever else you're writing be. And it can be challenging when that's ongoing work for you. So how do you manage having your own time within that?
I, lately, I don't think I've been managing it very well. I've just
Yep.
been very, very focused on my business.
Yep.
Um, I used to take like poetry and nonfiction writing classes in person. The last place I lived in the United States, which was Lexington, Kentucky, and that helped. I was dating another writer. We're still very close, but we're not a couple anymore. So it was like we would encourage each other between working on our businesses to go to these classes and go to these groups. And I got a lot of stuff written then. It was a lot easier. Um, I mean, he still sends me stuff, but I'm just not writing anything lately. And but June, we're recording this in May for the listeners and viewers. June is Lex Pomo, which is Lexington, Kentucky Poetry Month. And I usually will participate. The goal is to write a poem a day. I rarely meet that goal, but like I can still participate in it. A lot of my friends are in it. If I post at least 5 new poems, one of them will be published in a physical book that they publish every year. So
Wow.
I will make the space for that, to write at least 5 poems every June. And I was working on a screenplay again last year. I used to work in the TV and movie industry as well for a while. So it's just it's just really hard, and I would like to write another book, especially more about copywriting, writing books, etc. It's just making the space for it.
Definitely. It's a lot of it is, you know, creating the time for whatever it is you're trying to schedule in your day. And I know you'd be probably more um, time management effective with other people's work, but sometimes our own writing or passion can kind of get a little bit skewed. But at the same time, you're I think you understand why you're doing it. It's like you're in a business mode at the moment. So
Right.
like there will be a time and a place for you to go like, look, I'm just taking a month and I'm going to do my own writing. But at the moment you're in hustle mode, and that's completely cool. And I'm sure your clients are appreciating you for that. um
Right, right.
yeah, like I guess as well, something that I was thinking about when you were in primary school, and you said, some teachers really praised your work, and then others were, for lack of a better word, a source of feedback, in a less than constructive kind of point of view.
Mhm.
How do you deal with feedback now? And what was your journey through having critics along the way? Because it's not just in in the work that we do, but I guess it's like feedback and critics in life in general. What would be your reply to that?
Well, for the most part, I don't get a lot of criticism for my writing. When I worked at newspapers, I did work with editors, and most of them were very supportive.
Yeah.
They had good constructive feedback. I guess the last 5 or 6 I worked for were like, I love your work because I could just put it in the newspaper. So obviously, as I went along, I got better. Early in my career, there were a couple of editors. Some of them did have constructive feedback, but the way they delivered it was
Mm.
very shaming. And so it was really hard. But, when you work for a newspaper, you don't have a choice. That's your boss. You gotta deal with it. And when it comes to copywriting or freelance writing for my clients, 99% of the time, everybody's like, oh, this is great. Thank you. So I haven't dealt with that. So I haven't really dealt with any criticism recently. So,
Good answer. I like that.
which is
And
good because
yeah.
we don't need, criticism. The world's already difficult enough. So,
I think, yeah, you use the word that it's like constructive feedback, and like just looking at
yeah.
that as a source of a positive framing of the word as well. So yeah, we can always deal with that in terms of being able to improve our work, I guess, like having that,
Yes.
if everything's always good, it's like, where do we grow within that? And we need other people to reflect back to us what's going well, maybe what's not going well. And it's probably what you do actually with your clients, because I'm sure people send you in things and it's like, well, this isn't very clear. Or you might go, look, we need to reframe this. But again, what your main purpose was, it's the delivery. And it can come across as rude, or it can come across as really well educated and eloquent. So it comes down to the type of person that you're dealing with, and then I guess the content as well, whether it's more personal or factual.
Right. And when I've been doing a lot of book editing lately, editing and proofreading people's book manuscripts. And sometimes I do have to ask them a question because something is really unclear,
Mm,
or there's a story where something's just missing. So I just try to be as polite as possible and mention it in the comments and in my email just so they can improve their writing.
yeah, totally. Where did you learn your writing techniques from? Like, who would you say are your mentors or role models in this area to be able to draw upon their frameworks and knowledge when you go through your writing business and your own personal writing?
Well, I'd say for copywriting, Alex Catoni, she's has the copy posse, so she's really a good mentor for copywriting. Journalism, I mean, a lot of them aren't really working anymore, but just a lot of the editors and writers I've worked with, I really liked the writing of the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, etc. Was blessed to have an internship at the Philadelphia Inquirer in the summer of 2000. So, yeah, I would just say those people mainly.
Lovely. And it's nice to have a simplified version of who you can look to for a blueprint at times, because like I was saying before, there's so much content available on the big sea of the World Wide Web, and we can get so lost in looking for people and searching that we can stop ourselves from actually taking action in any area. So do you feel like that is a common thing that your clients say to you, like, oh, thank goodness I came across you, because it just felt like it was all sorted when they'd been searching and searching and searching for some time?
Yes, I mean, like I said, lately I haven't been taking on too many writing clients, but when I do, and I get a lot of referrals these days. But
Yeah.
yes, when people are new to me, they seem to be pretty happy. They say your credentials are great. I saw your testimonials. It's hard for people to determine who's real and who's fake,
Right.
especially with the pandemic. There's been a lot of people online calling themselves copywriters, editors, coaches, and some of these writers have good intentions but don't necessarily have the training or experience. but they're charging like low rates. So people are like, ooh. And then it's the
Yeah.
same thing with book editors. There's people advertising book editing for 150 US dollars. And anyone who's edited a book can tell you that's nowhere near enough. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. And what they're doing is they're running it through a software program. They're not even reading it. So
Wow.
I just think it's important for anything, not just writing, editing, and coaching, but graphics, web design. It's just really important to be careful and just to make sure that person has testimonials or samples of work that you can tell they actually did, because I've come across people who are presenting other samples as their own. It's just really important to try to vet that person. If somebody just showed up online yesterday, they probably are not legit.
Isn't it crazy with how cool technology is for so many reasons, um, but that you really can market yourself really, really well and not have a training in something. Like I could go, look, I'm this person and I do this, and I've written like a fake resume somewhere, and how quickly we do believe words, which is, quite ironic that the title that I've called this is Words That Sell, because in a way, like you do have the power to manipulate, and having the power of word, and if it's not used with discernment or correct knowledge, like you said, you could really have the ability to mess up someone's life, but you can also conversely have the ability to really um, elevate somebody's world.
Right, especially with social media,
Ooh,
so
yeah. How do you find the social media world? Like, are you quite active in that area, or do you stay offline mostly?
I'm pretty active. I will say I'm trying to get more into video, even though I hate it. Like,
Yep.
it feels very fake to me to just like pull up my phone and start like making a video. I'm more introverted. I'm more like, I either want to talk to a human one on one like this, or be
Yep.
teaching to a group of folks. I'm a great teacher, etc. So it just feels kind of silly to be sitting there talking to myself. So, but I am trying to do more video because, again, like I said, a lot of people out there are fake, and all the Instagram, Facebook, etc. experts, coaches I've talked to say that video really not only shows your personality, but that you're authentic, that you're not one of these fake, because there's a lot of bots, there's a lot of fake accounts.
Yep.
So it really, I'm trying to do it. It's not my strength. I do post a lot of written content,
Yep.
just short things. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I've been active on there about 11 years. So I got on social media before it was like a big deal. I've been on Facebook 16 years. I had one of the first accounts.
Wow.
And I've been on Twitter for I don't know how many years, but I'm a little active on Twitter. I would say I'm mainly active on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and then a new audio social media site. I don't know if you know it, called Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. I have written that down multiple times this week. I'm like, I really need to look into it because it seems to be um, the way to go. And like actually just tailing onto the video side of things, what we're realizing now is just people want to know who you are. In a way, they barely even want to know your qualifications. And I think that your story and your expertise will come through in the way that you deliver that through them seeing your video of like, I could say, oh, I'm a yoga instructor, but if I'm videoing myself and not matching up to that, like it's going to come out pretty quickly that I'm not congruent and I'm not authentic. But you might feel awkward on camera, but you could be sitting at a cafe like, oh, I'm just writing my next piece, blah, 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 blah. And it shows people instead of telling people.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, like I said, I've been trying to get better with it. It's just
Yeah,
not something I love. And, I think that's a disadvantage of social media as well, because some people are really good at being on camera and they can talk up a big game. Like, I can do this, 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 and this. And so I think it's still important to do your due diligence to like research that person.
totally.
So yeah, there's pros and cons, but no, Clubhouse, I can't say enough about Clubhouse. I've gotten
Amazing.
clients from Clubhouse. Most of the podcast interviews I book are from Clubhouse. I think we met in a Facebook group. So I just think Clubhouse is really a great place to go. I think it's a good time to get in is a good time to get in is now,
Sure.
because right now it's iPhone or iPad only, and once they open up the Android, I think it'll really be crowded.
Wow. See, I'm only on Android, so
Oh,
um
can't get on it right now. Yeah, you have to have an iPad or iPhone. But I heard that they're opening it up either in May or June for Android.
oh, well, that's exciting. I'm definitely going to look into it this week because, like I was saying, that synchronistic side, when you hear something like at least 3 times within a crowded week, it's
Yes.
like, I need to do this. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, that's kind of what happened to me. In fact, somebody that a business coach I had followed online for, I don't know, 14 years, sent an email out to his list and he said, I'm going to be doing a clubhouse room today at 5 p.m. And I had been hearing about it. I'm like, I don't need more social media. And then
Right.
when he sent that, I basically went and posted on Facebook. I'm like, who has a clubhouse invitation? And I got one pretty
Yes.
quick. So
You. That's how does it work? Can you just run me through that really quickly? I would love to know what the actual platform is like.
So basically, right now you have to have an invitation, but you can get it from like any Facebook group, really. I mean, or your page. I'm sure if you posted, you could get one. So
Mm.
somebody has to invite you. You download the app, and then you open up the app. You're going to see, well, first it's going to ask you things like what are your interests? It's going to encourage you to upload your picture. You have a profile. You can't have live links in it, but they will let you connect to your Instagram and Twitter so people can contact you that way.
Cool.
And then you can put things in your profile like who you are, what you do, etc. Then there's a thing called a hallway. And in that hallway, depending on your interests and who else you follow, you'll see a lot of different rooms. For example, there might be a room going on right now called, there probably is, it's about 8:40 a.m. my time, 7:40 Eastern time. So there's probably a room going right now that's like podcast morning coffee. And so people who are
Uh-huh.
podcasters or want to be on podcasts, you can click on that room, you go in, and you're listening. You can raise your hand to go on what they call the stage and
Wow.
speak. It's audio only, no video. You can sit there and listen. You can raise your hand, speak, ask questions. They have a pretty good system for like getting rid of trolls. Each room has like moderators or mods. They have like a little green bean, they call it. It's like a little tiny green icon right by the name and picture. So the moderators have functions. Like if somebody gets in there and starts being hateful, they
Mhm.
can just kick them off the stage and block them. That does happen, but I don't think it happens a whole lot because you have to sign up with your real phone number
Uh-huh.
connected to your like real iPhone or iPad.
Yep.
So if you're doing stuff like that, you're going to get banned from the platform pretty fast.
So is it a
So
big
generally
hub
it's
of like
good.
everyone? Like when you're in the clubhouse, so to say, like I'm so not hip with the language at the moment. I feel very amateur. But when you're in Clubhouse, is that just like absolutely everyone who's on Clubhouse you kind of could access at some point? Or are there do you add yourself into
Yeah,
rooms in there that you just want to go into?
yeah. There's clubs in Clubhouse. Like for example, I have a club called Write Your Money Making Book because I'm trying to focus more on helping people write and publish their books, especially
Mm,
coaches, podcasters, etc.
yeah,
So I can start rooms in that club. I'm a
love it.
member of other clubs like the Sisterhood of Influential Entrepreneurs. I could start a
Yes.
room in that club because I completed their moderator training. But you don't have to have a club to start a room in Clubhouse. I know it sounds confusing. It'll make more sense once you get in it.
Yeah.
But you just start a room and you can find people and clubs and depending on your interests and just start following them, and then your hallway will get really big. There's also a calendar function where you
Yeah.
can click on a calendar and see like a lot of rooms that maybe you might not have known about. So it's pretty cool. It also can be very addictive. So I'm a coach who believes in having a coach. And my
Yes.
coach made it clear to me and other members of our mastermind coaching group that we should really only do this at nighttime and on the weekends, because once you get on, it can be very addictive and then you're not going to get your work done. So almost always I only do it at night and weekend. Occasionally I will get on during the day, like on if I'm free on a Monday, there's like a room called Find a Guest, Be a Guest, where you can get booked on podcasts. But I have a lot of interviews scheduled this month, so I probably won't do that room
Wow.
anytime soon. But
That's
yeah, I
so
mean, I've
cool.
gotten podcast interviews scheduled. I've gotten clients, especially for editing, and a couple of coaching clients, who wanted to have like just a couple sessions. I had a mini workshop a few months ago called Get Your Book Out of Your Head into Reality. It was 27 US dollars. I had a few people from Clubhouse like contact me to sign up for that. I have an email list and I had 31 people sign up in one weekend. So,
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's super, super insightful. And yeah, I think I will get onto that platform and start the train on that area. I'll grab an invite, whether it's from you or from somebody else, if you're
oh,
able
I
to.
have an invite. Yeah. I still
Yeah.
have 5 invites. I'm very careful I give my invites to, because it'll say that, you're basically connect that person. It says on your profile who
Wow.
invited you. So that's why I'm not giving them out to strangers. Some
Yes.
people are. So I definitely have one for you. So I will save one for
Oh,
you.
I will just give you a big virtual hug, beautiful, because yeah, I understand it's probably a bit like having a referee on a resume of like, oh, would you recommend this person that you're putting into the group? You don't just want, again, you don't
Right.
want that like bad vibe, because it's like
Right.
one crappy vibe could really spoil the whole
Right.
thing going on there. So yeah, that's
Well, I
super
didn't
cool.
get in on. I mean, you'll see follow trains and invite trains on Facebook and stuff, but I'm like, no, I'm not getting in on that.
Mm,
I just, I mean, it's just different than following somebody. Like you're actually connected. It's like you're the person that brought them in. So I brought
yeah.
in my mom, my
Cool.
brother. They don't really use it much though. I guess they're not that convinced. And then a friend from high school. So
What would you say is the biggest use for that platform? What do you think is going off at the moment? Is it the podcast area, or like is there something specific that you kind of get out of it?
I would say, well, there's a lot of things. There's also travel related rooms. I've been doing a lot in that just for fun. There's like groups
Wow.
called Girls Love Travel. So a lot of people invite me to help mod their rooms. But
Yep.
I'm having to put some boundaries around that just because, again, I can't spend 50 hours a week on there.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, podcasting seems to be a big thing, whether you're starting one, you have one, or you want to be a guest.
mm,
My One of my coaches and I, Kathleen Gage, she's a big podcaster. She and I have done a few rooms about how podcasters can write books from their podcasts. Basically, what you do is go be interviewed on podcasts around certain topics, have those transcribed, and then start like, working with those to get your book written. So we've done some stuff around that. Yeah, I would say almost anything you can think of. I mean, people are dating on Clubhouse. People are doing religious stuff on Clubhouse. Anything personal or professional you can think of, or even religious. Like I see all sorts of religions. There's tarot card readings, oracle card readings. There's people
mm.
talking about yoga. There's people doing guided meditations, full moon rituals together. I've done a few of these
Wow.
things. So I try to get on there for a combination of personal and business. I find that even when I get on there for the personal, though, people still will, some will follow my business just because I have these things linked in my profile,
Yep.
or they like something I said, so they'll DM me on Instagram. I will say Clubhouse has made me devote a lot more time to Instagram because, like I said, the way they have it, you can only message people through their Instagram or Twitter account. They don't have a messaging function at this time.
Interesting.
So yeah, I get a lot of DMs on Instagram. It can get overwhelming. And then people are
Yeah.
looking at my Instagram more. So,
Yeah. And there is that process of needing to filter through things and realizing where you need to block out your time, whether it's getting back to people or just getting that initial gut feel of like, oh, I like this person, don't like this person. Like, you know,
Yeah.
even with me messaging you, that would have just been another person on your message list of like, who is this and how did she come across me? And so it comes down to that, I guess, gut feel in the end of like, what is this person's
Right.
intention for reaching out, and what's your intention moving into
Right.
a chat like this? Do you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. So
Yeah. Oh wow, that is super cool. I am so excited to check it out. It sounds like, gosh, social media is really moving above and beyond in ways that probably none of us really foresaw, like when we were growing up. I'm just like, man, the dial-up computer just was like the best thing ever when we were in primary school. Just to think of
yes, it was.
all these apps now. Are you like a solid book kind of girl, or are you a podcast kind of gal? Like, what would be a book that you would recommend for our viewers and listeners? It's like you have to read this.
Oh, that's a great question.
It is.
Gosh, I need to take a moment to think about this.
It's fine. I can have a little dance break here.
All right. Gosh, there's so many. It's hard to know.
There are so many.
I know. And then so many people have so many different interests.
What's your favorite? I guess favorite's probably a bit of a funny word because different moods or different environments, you can like different things. But what's your go-to thing to kind of chill out? Like, is it personal development, or is it fiction or fantasy?
So for books, I have different moods. So
Yeah.
I like to read poetry books, travel books, self-help, religion. I'm talking about all types of religions,
Yeah.
things about, different cultures. I don't read much fiction. I just kind of lost my taste for it.
Same.
So, and I prefer physical books versus ebooks, but being in Suriname right now, I can get physical books, but it winds up being more expensive because I have to pay extra for shipping, etc. Plus, it takes up more space, and I don't know what my future plans are. So, I have been leaning more towards Kindle, the ebooks, but I still prefer a physical book when possible. It's just because I already have so much screen time. And so I just, with the phone, the computer, etc., I just really like to sometimes read a book, but that's not something I've been doing a lot of lately.
Yeah, something so different of like holding a book in your hands, isn't it? Whereas it's so easy to grab your phone and, like you said, scroll through Clubhouse or social media. So again, it comes back to this almost needing to schedule time for self-care, or like scheduling, I'm
Yes.
reading a physical book and it's a non-negotiable, because otherwise, like you said, you start scrolling and there's so many cool things that we can consume. It's like travel. It's like, oh my
Right.
God, I should be sleeping.
Right.
But then you probably get ideas to write and it's like, oh crap, I've
Right.
got to sleep and wake up and get a bit lost
Right.
in it all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well, you might have to pop it in your journal or your schedule to actually like put maybe a limited time on your Clubhouse scroll time.
Right. No, I don't do it too much during the day, but yeah, sometimes
Good.
I like to play things like games on the phone, like Words with Friends, etc.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Have you got any projects or missions coming up? I know you mentioned the one that's coming up in June, but is there anything moving forward for the rest of the year that you're looking towards completing or getting a group together for that I can put out to my listeners and viewers?
Sure. So there's a mini course that's about to come out at the time it's recording called "Get Your Book Out of Your Head and Into Reality." And Lauren, I can hook you up with some affiliate links if you want, but
I would love that.
once that's ready. But yeah, so that's going to be like a mini course for $27 US. I've got the group that's going to start we might wind up starting in July, but right now it's supposed to start June 2nd, and it's 6 months from book idea to final chapter. Later this year, I'll probably do some kind of mini workshop again. I haven't decided what, and I'm going to start writing my book. So there's some things I got to start doing. So, but the main thing right now is I'm trying to focus on getting this mini workshop out and then getting a group going. So, and serving my clients. So,
Cool.
I do have one-on-one spaces if anybody's interested in either learning how to write a book, especially to build their reputation and authority, or they want help doing their own copywriting, because I do work with people on that. Because some people, especially coaches, they want to do their own copywriting, so they want to learn tips and tricks.
So with that course, I just want to clarify for people reaching out to you, it's actually guiding them through the process to get their thoughts out of their head and kind of guide them to do the process themselves, as I'm aware, or is it actually you writing it for them?
Oh no, so yeah, the mini course, it's basically, it's going to be like, it's 5 modules on Kajabi, it's videos and
Uh-huh.
slides.
Cool.
And I literally, it'll be me, but on video. And I'm literally walking you through on how to come up with your book idea, how to start your book. And when you're done with it, it's about an hour, 15 minutes or so. When you're done with it, you're going to have the start of your book. You're going to have your title. You know, when the sales page is up, you'll see that there's probably 4 or 5 testimonials of people saying how much value they got out of it.
Cool. That's super
That's
exciting.
so yeah, I'm gonna start doing more things like that. But again, it's just a process trying to get all the tech and everything together.
Yeah. There's lots in it. And particularly when you work as a small business owner, I'm not sure if you've got like a bit of a team around you, but even just
I have, yeah, I have some like part-time people and some,
cool.
I contract some things out. That's been a challenge in itself, because
Yeah.
sometimes, like I said, people say they can do stuff, but they kind of can't, or they don't honor deadlines. And to me, as somebody who
Right.
is a journalist, like deadlines are so important to me.
Oh, that is such, my sister's going through was going through something like that with getting a website built for her that was a little bit more complex than just a standard website. And it's so interesting how, your values get challenged in these times, or how much you realize you do value punctuality or like accountability or whatever it is. And it's so frustrating because they can get back in one moment and then you cannot hear from them for like 3 weeks. And it's like, you're dealing with my project here. Like, I don't actually know how to follow this up further without it getting kind of like a little bit heated. And it's like, it's a really strange thing when it's online. It feels all out in the ether.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So, and I also have a free ebook. Well, I have a
Cool.
couple, but I'll just name one. It's called 3 Things You Must Know Before Writing Your Book. You
Cool.
can go to gettheirattentionnow.com/book. That's gettheirattentionnow.com/book.
So I've included beautiful Steph's Facebook name to find her there. I've also included that link in the show notes too, for the 3 things you must know before you write your first book. So you'll be able to click on that if you're both on, YouTube, or if you're on Spotify listening to this. Is there another way that you would prefer to be contacted, Steph?
They can also contact me on LinkedIn. I can get you that link if you don't
Yep,
already have it.
sure.
So,
I can just add that one in now. And yeah, thank you again so much for your time, value, and energy that you've put out, for just agreeing to pop on when I know it's a time that you have really scheduled into your day for the benefit of me, but also my viewers and listeners. So thank you for sharing what you have. And I look forward to sharing more of the projects that you have moving forward. So always keep me in
thank
the
you.
loop for that.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's keep in touch, and I'm glad to have been on here.
It's been awesome. Might see each other on Clubhouse, huh?
Yeah, that would be cool.